Good morning, 12th grade. We are officially on week 5 of remote learning. This week, we are starting a new unit. So we're completely finished with Julius Caesar. I know that was definitely a difficult transition from being in the classroom and working with Julius Caesar and then shifting into finishing the unit on a virtual setting, in a virtual setting. So I just want to say, number one, kudos to all of you for sticking it through, really pushing yourself towards the end with it, and making a really great effort all together. Your performance tasks were really great. I'm so glad that I got to read all of those and see how you were able to make some really great connections between the play that we read and a Netflix series. I hope that was a worthwhile experience for you to have. And so moving forward, we're going to kind of shift gears and do something that's a little bit different. So we're going to be starting a unit on podcasting. I don't know if anyone listens to podcasts, but if you have an iPhone, in iTunes, if you just type in podcasts and then you click, there's like a purple app that comes up, and then all these different podcasts will come up. And you can just browse through thousands and thousands of different podcasts that are created. You can browse by I think names of people. There's, depending on what types of things you like to listen to. Some of the things that are up here, some of the things are Cultivating Calm is like a search that you can do, and there's all podcasts that fall within that category. Get Smart, Stay Smart. They have curated collections. They have things in different languages. They have things based off of shows, sports, comedy. So if you're not into podcasting, it's definitely something that is really cool, and you can kind of pick any direction that is of interest to you and look through or hear those types of podcasts and recordings. We're going to be focusing on one podcast in particular, which we will begin tomorrow. But for just like a general overview day, today we're just going to listen to a very short clip of a sample podcast and work through talking about what some of the elements of a podcast are. Because most of the stories that we've read this year, and I put stories in air quotes because I read a play, The Tragedy of Julius Caesar, which told a story, right, through the form of play. And then we read Malcolm X, the autobiography of Malcolm X, which told a story from a first person account. So this is a type of storytelling, but it's done without text. So it's a little bit different than what we've done scholastically since September. So in our slides for the week, we have 5 simple slides for today, for Monday. The overview for today, like I said, is just an introduction, a very brief introduction to podcasts. And basically what we're doing is just identifying some of the elements that make a podcast what it is. So I have a couple of like different slides here. This is more or less a definition of what a podcast is. It's a digital audio or video file or recording, usually part of a themed series, that can be downloaded from a website to a media player or computer. Podcasts are downloadable, so you can take them off of the podcast app and keep them on your phone so that you don't have to use your data. So if you have Wi-Fi, I would suggest when we start doing the series, you download it so that it's on your phone and you don't have to use up data. The other thing is the podcast that we're listening to, in case you don't have access to the podcast on your phone, it's available via YouTube, and it's also available through an alternate website. So we're going to be listening to that podcast through that downloaded space. Who really listens to podcasts, right? 15% of the American population, which is roughly about 40 million people, actually listen to podcasts. I thought that was a pretty big number. People that are podcast listeners, they spend about 6 hours and 8 minutes every day consuming audio in general. So music counts as audio, TV counts as audio, the radio station counts as audio. 30% of that time, of that 6 hours and 8 minutes, is dedicated to listening to podcasts. Podcasts can range in the time of episodes. So you can have certain podcasts that are maybe only 15 to 30 minutes long, whereas there are other podcasts that are 2 hours long. So depending on what you're listening to, the series that you're listening to, and the content that you're listening to, the time that that podcast encompasses is going to be very different. Data proves that people listen to podcasts more than any other audio content. That means more than music. I'm going to say that again. Data proves that people listen to podcasts more than any other audio content. For those of you that are constantly listening to music throughout your day, think about the fact that overall more people are listening to a podcast than music. I found that stat very hard to believe. But that is what some data proves. I don't have the resources to back that, so feel free to challenge me on that statistic, because I don't know how accurate it is, but it is a statistically proven point in some capacity. Podcasts give you an opportunity to reach people that traditional text and visual content aren't reaching. So those of you that don't really like to read a physical text, or you aren't a visual learner and that's not how the wires in your brain click best, and you're an auditory learner, this is going to be definitely something that benefits you. Also, if you are someone that does need visual and you need to read to see, to understand, that's how I am. If I don't see it in front of me and I can't like visually have it, it doesn't process the same. I will be providing you with a transcript so that you can read as you listen. And podcasts can work for any industry and subject. As I said before, you can browse through the podcast app yourself, and you can filter. There are so many different filters. If you are a big sports person, you might find a sports podcast. There's a lot of really great health and wellness podcasts. There's podcasts on social media stuff and TV series and episodes if you're into pop culture. So depending on what you're looking to do, whether it's entertain or be informed or learn something, there is more than likely a podcast out there that would suit your needs. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to listen to this podcast. It's about 7 minutes, I believe, and it's called The Haunting Effects of Going Days Without Sleep. I thought this was an interesting place to start just because it's pretty low stakes. It's something that doesn't require you to invest a large amount of time because it's only 7 minutes. And I thought the topic was pretty safe. Regardless of your interest, we all go to sleep. And I think now more than ever, our sleeping patterns and schedules are totally different because our routines have changed. So I just thought that this might be a good place to start. Your task is highlighted. As you listen, there's a transcript that you can follow along and read. Answer the following questions in the Google Classroom. So these are super simple, straightforward questions, 1 through 5. 1, what's the podcast about? That's me to check your understanding, that you were listening and you understand. And do not just say, the podcast was about the effects of going days without sleep. That's just copying and pasting the title. I need a little bit more than that. Second question, what did you hear in the podcast? Sound related. I want you to list at least 4 things. What things did you hear? Okay, think about it. 3, why would someone choose to deliver or give this content through a podcast and not a video or an article? What makes this content unique or different? Because it's not written as an article. There is a transcript, but the information was not originally delivered through an article, and the information was not delivered through video. It was delivered through podcast. So I'm asking you to consider why. Number 4, what makes a podcaster different from a YouTuber? And number 5, how does it change the way you tell a story when you're on the phone? How does it change the way you listen when you can't see someone? Okay, so those are the 5 questions that I have you guys working through today. I just want to also show you, this is what happens when you click on the link, The Haunting Effects of Going Days Without Sleep. The podcast itself is here. It's a 7-minute listen. The transcript is all here. So if you need to read while you listen, that is fine. You have that option. And then if you just click play,
This next story is about something we think about a lot at Morning Edition. It's about sleep. It's actually about the lack of sleep.
So, and then you would just go on from there. If you are in the live session, we will listen to the podcast together and we will talk through it. If you're not in the live session and you're watching this recording now, take 7 minutes of your time. You can even re-listen to it, which is kind of the beauty of a podcast. If you forget or you need to go back, you can just rewind. And you want to just complete those 5 thinking questions at the end. Tomorrow, I will give you all some more information about the podcast series that we're going to start together. I kind of gave a few hints about it last week, but I think you will find it especially interesting and very cool. I hope. That's my fingers crossed. I think it'll be a nice relief after we just spent a lot of time on Julius Caesar. It's definitely more current, way more current than Shakespeare. And I think the content is something that will pique your interest very much. So that's all I have for you guys today. Make sure you complete questions 1 through 5. And if you have any questions, shoot me an email. I'm here for you. Let me know. Okay. Bye, guys. Thanks.